Dear Mr. President, guests, journalists, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we held productive and timely negotiations with Mr. President of the International Olympic Committee. The Russian invasion had a negative impact on Ukrainian sports. More than 100,000 Ukrainian athletes do not have the opportunity to train. Hundreds of sports facilities were destroyed. These are large objects of sports infrastructure, and objects based on schools and universities, and objects based on sports clubs. Many Ukrainian athletes joined the ranks of the armed forces of Ukraine to defend our country on the battlefield. 89 athletes and coaches died as a result of hostilities, and another 13 were captured by Russian military personnel. I am grateful to Mr. Thomas Bach and the International Olympic Committee for supporting our athletes and our country in these extremely cruel conditions. Today, Mr. Bach announced a new support package for our Olympians. We appreciate it very much and are grateful to you. I am grateful to you, Mr. President, for the initiative to hold a special donor conference for the purpose of restoring the sports infrastructure in Ukraine. We discussed the need to continue international efforts to prevent representatives of the terrorist state from participating in international sports competitions. A terrorist state cannot be allowed to use sports to promote its political interests and propaganda. Thank you, Mr. President, for your unwavering position regarding the exclusion of Russian and Belarusian athletes from official competitions under the auspices of the IOC. While Russia is trying to destroy the Ukrainian people and conquer European countries, its representatives have no place in the sports community. We discussed the plan for the development of Ukrainian sports after the war. I have no doubt that after our victory we will be able to provide all the necessary conditions for holding international sports events in Ukraine. Our athletes and our country have already made a significant contribution to the development of the Olympic movement. But our opportunities are much greater and we will certainly realize them. In particular, we will apply to host the Olympic Games in Ukraine, which is already peaceful, free and rebuilt. I am very grateful, Mr. Bach, for having you with us today. I thank you for this clear signal of support for all of us, for our country, in particular, for the sportsmen of Ukraine.
Thank you very much, Mr. President Zelenskyy. First of all, I would like to thank you for this opportunity, for this honor to meet you, to talk about sports in such a difficult, painful time for your country. This is another strong confirmation that Ukraine remains committed to the values and ideals of sport. During your last visit, which took place 9 months ago, you and I met, and then you already convinced me of this. We are very grateful to you for the fact that you continue to support sports, protect sports values in your country and abroad, despite everything, in particular, despite the fact that right now the Ukrainian people are defending their land. We came here to show our solidarity with the Ukrainian people, in particular, with the Ukrainian Olympians and the Olympic community. We have to tell them that we took this opportunity to get an invitation from the National Olympic Committee of Ukraine to talk to the athletes and tell them, their coaches and everyone who works in the field of sports that they are not alone with their troubles, that we are to their side, that we are close to them. We support them with our heart, soul, thoughts and deeds. We support them. We do it in such a way that you can see a powerful, successful, proud Ukrainian national team at the Olympic Games in Paris, to be held in 2024, and at the Winter Olympic Games in Milano Cortina, which are scheduled for 2026. We want your Ukrainian flag to fly proudly at these Olympic competitions, and we would very much like Ukrainians to perform successfully at the qualifying selection for the Olympic Games. For this, the International Olympic Committee tripled the support fund that we created from the very beginning of the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine. Initially, the support package was $2.5 million, and now it is $7.5 million. This, of course, is only the contribution of the International Olympic Committee. Our friend Mr. Serhiy Bubka, already directly in Ukraine, will continue to coordinate all the efforts of sports workers who show solidarity with Ukraine and help it all over the world. All this applies to many other Olympic national committees, international sports federations, which now give us the opportunity to support more than 3,000 members of the Olympic movement in Ukraine. Olympic athletes who continue to train in Ukraine or those who are abroad. Today, during our meeting, from our conversation with the President, we also learned what the needs of Ukrainian athletes are, and we will try to help. We have had many meetings with Ukrainian athletes at the championships in recent months. And I want to point out that we see that this support and help is really necessary, that all of this goes to the athletes in full, that our help brings real benefits to Ukrainian athletes. They perform successfully at international competitions and give Ukrainians a great reason to be proud of their successes, their country and their achievements. Today we also touched on a very important topic. President Zelenskyy asked us to help rebuild the sports infrastructure in Ukraine after the end of the war. We will have 2 phases now, and then we will combine all the results, analyze them and see what happens at the donor conference in Lugano. The conference is starting now and later, but no later than the end of this year. We are convening the International Olympic Committee Donor Conference, which will be attended by all national Olympic committees, as well as our partners, sponsors and suppliers. And then, I believe, we will be able to offer Ukraine additional assistance in order to rebuild the country's sports infrastructure. We hope and believe that these will be the results of the donor conference in Lugano. We are all also very impressed by the desire and intentions of Ukraine to hold the Winter Olympic Games right here, in Ukraine. And let's hope that this wish will come true. It seems to me that actually in this very room, Mr. President, 9 months ago, when we met with you, you showed us a very detailed plan of action, which contains a certain program of planned activities. So, in our conversation today with Mr. President Zelenskyy, I again emphasized that we are always ready to help. Ukraine has the opportunity to take part in such consultations with our Commission, which is responsible for determining the location of the Winter Olympic Games, and to propose itself as a candidate. To put it briefly, we also, together with Ukraine, together with Ukrainian athletes and together with the Ukrainian Olympic Committee, support all the proposed measures and will make all possible and necessary efforts to implement them as soon as possible. We can also in all sincerity assure Mr. President that we maintain the same position that we have expressed since the beginning of this terrible war. This position was very expressive, very powerful and uncompromising. We strongly condemned the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The war continues, and we continue to support Ukraine. We apply many measures, one of which is our strong recommendations to all international sports federations not to invite Russian or Belarusian athletes to international competitions. This position remains unchanged and firm. We believe that the time has not yet come to lift this ban from competition. We also said quite clearly and emphatically that we have remained and will continue to remain steadfast in our judgments and actions. We had a good opportunity during our conversation to personally assure President Zelenskyy. I want to sincerely wish all of Ukraine and the Ukrainian Olympic Committee only happiness, prosperity and victory. I want to express my deepest condolences to all athletes and all residents of Ukraine. We see your determination, your dedication, and don't let the frustration and uncertainty that may have arisen in this difficult situation become an obstacle to your victories. As for us, this is a reason for us to act more decisively and continue to provide our strong support further, as well as gradually strengthen it, so that the Ukrainian people can be proud of their achievements in sports at the upcoming Olympic Games, both summer and winter. Thank you, Mr. President, for taking the time and paying attention to us.